Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming to our presentation today. My name is Angela, and I'm excited to share what Hannah, Jeff, Nicole, and I have been working on. Today, I'll be talking about the Algorithmic Crystal, conceptualizing the self through algorithmic personalization processes on TikTok. TikTok's algorithm has been key to its success. The For You page presents users with algorithmically curated videos based on their interests. Recently, researchers have sought to examine how these algorithms can influence how people think about and understand themselves. We conducted a qualitative study to understand how do people perceive the TikTok algorithm in relation to their self-concept. To do so, we interviewed 24 TikTok users to examine how they thought about the functioning and characteristics of the For You page algorithm. By analyzing data from our interviews and synthesizing past research on perceptions of algorithms, we have proposed a new framework for understanding how algorithms can shape how people see themselves and others. We call this the Algorithmic Crystal framework. At a high level, it is an analytic frame that captures user understandings of how personalized algorithms interact with personal and social identity. This talk will briefly outline the core components of our framework and its potential applications. For more information, our paper will be linked at the end of this talk. Currently, people tend to conceptualize algorithms as feeds or streams of content, a metaphor that positions users as passive recipients of information. Our theoretical framework reconceptualizes the relationship between user and algorithm by drawing on the properties of crystals, which can be actively shaped over time to reflect and refract the nuances of human behavior. First, I'll talk about what it means for an algorithm to be seen as reflective and multifaceted. One way that crystals can transform light is through reflection, or by returning light back to its source. In our study, we found that people often understood the algorithm to be a reflection of who they really were. As can be seen in this quote, users thought that the algorithm was trying to become them by reflecting their interests through content recommendations. The algorithm was able to then allow participants to see elements of their self-concept reflected back to them in the form of content recommendations, a concept that has been described in prior literature as an algorithmic mirror. However, participants especially valued when they felt that the algorithm could reflect multiple identity facets. That is, when they felt that the algorithm could capture a version of themselves that was multifaceted and not just flat or one-dimensional. For instance, people appreciated when they perceived the For You page as recommending content to them that reflected not just one, but many parts of who they were simultaneously. Next, I'll talk briefly about the ways in which algorithms are dynamic and can be refined over time. People are constantly changing, and the parts that make up our identities will evolve. For example, you might not like the same hobbies or TV shows that you liked several months ago. You may have also discovered new sides of yourselves during the pandemic, maybe learning something new about who you are and what you care about. Therefore, for an algorithm to be truly reflective of who you are, it needs to be responsive to those changes in self-concept. In other words, algorithms that are perceived to be dynamic change with you over time. In our study, the dynamic nature of the TikTok algorithm was vital to participants' experiences. While the For You page could quickly recognize people's new interests and reflect them through new content recommendations, other algorithms like the Instagram Explore page were perceived to be stagnant or slow to change. This perceived failure to reflect changes in the self through algorithmic personalization processes was often experienced as constricting, like when a person from your past treats you as if you never changed from high school or college. Our participants valued when they felt that the algorithm could rapidly update its recommendations to align with their dynamic self-concept. But what is the process for changing an algorithm? Just as crystals can be cut and polished, algorithms can be refined over time through user engagement behaviors to better align the algorithmic self with the actual self. These processes of algorithmic refinement can be conceptualized in two ways. First, your everyday behaviors can organically shape the algorithm. Just as crystals get worn down over time with repeated wear, everyday habitual behaviors like liking and watching videos can organically shape the algorithm's representation of the self without any effort on the part of the user. Algorithms can also be strategically refined. Like how crystals can be carved to create desired shapes, strategic refinement is when users deliberately modulate their engagement behaviors to guide or shape the algorithm. For example, they might be trying to get onto a particular side of TikTok or off of one that they don't resonate with. Guided by the notion that their personal engagement shapes what they see, they may intentionally alter what they look at or don't look at to craft a different representation of themselves. For example, one of our participants, who is a white woman, described seeing mostly content from white creators on her feed. However, with ongoing conversations about the importance of diversity and equity in media, she started deliberately liking content from more Black creators in order to diversify the content recommended to her. Whether people are deliberately liking or skipping content, this idea of strategic refinement is important because it's a way for users to assert agency over the algorithm so that it better reflects not just who they are, but who they might like to be. Together, these properties demonstrate how algorithms influence how people see themselves and how they can be changed. Next, I'll talk about the ways in which algorithms can also change how users see other people that they encounter through the algorithm. This is a bit of a throwback to your high school science class, but in physics, refraction is when light gets distorted when it passes through a glass. In the context of algorithms, we argue that the individualistic orientation of personalization systems results in a warped view of other people. When users hold the belief that what they're seeing is a reflection of themselves, they can come to see people who produce content for the algorithm as refracted images of the self. This might look like seeing parts of yourself in other people in a way that highlights perceived similarities and de-emphasizes perceived dissimilarities. Again, the idea that a page exists for you and delivers content curated for you is a relatively self-focused view. Our data suggests that this can result in a warped or refracted orientation to others. Seeing content from people like you can also be powerful to cultivating a sense of belonging. Just seeing similar others can help people feel seen themselves and to feel like they're not alone, even if they're not actively talking to them. However, something unique occurs when algorithms are capable of reflecting multiple facets of an individual's identity. In the process of sorting individuals on the different sides of TikTok, we can see that the algorithm diffracts the elements of a user's self-concept into its constituent parts. Diffraction is like the cover of the Pink Floyd album or when light passes through a prism. Unlike matching algorithms on dating apps that try to find you one person who's like you in 10 different ways, these algorithms find you 10 groups of people who are each like you in one specific way. Being exposed to these groups of similar others who each share at least one facet of your identity results in what we call diffracted belonging, being able to see many aspects of yourself reflected in many other people. This property has important implications for what it means to belong in algorithmically mediated spaces. Together, our framework proposes a new way of capturing how people's understanding of personalized algorithms can shape self-perceptions and other perceptions. Finally, we want to conclude by talking about some of the exciting implications and extensions of this framework. What do we get by conceptualizing algorithms as being like crystals? We believe that our framework not only synthesizes prior work in the literature on the implications of algorithmic perceptions on identity, but also lays out important pathways for future inquiry. First, we can talk about the idea of identity shift. How does changing your algorithmic representation change how you think about yourself? Are these changes lasting in the longer term? Next, we can ask questions about what it means to belong in algorithmic spaces. Psychological literature shows that mere belonging can make people feel more connected to others who share characteristics like them. Because algorithms fundamentally cluster people along such characteristics, there's a need to understand how these dynamics can be shifted and translated into social connections in a digital environment. Third, we need to understand the role of algorithmic literacy. It's 2022, and one of the few things we've gotten better at as in a society is learning a bit more about how algorithms work, but this can still vary a lot between people. Understanding how different levels of information or knowledge about algorithms can influence how people think about its relation to their self-concept is an important future direction. Finally, we believe there's value in identifying algorithmic refinement strategies as a means to optimize experiences with algorithms. The conceptualization of algorithms as a crystal, as something to be refined organically and strategically, emphasizes the ways in which individuals can work to craft a representation that serves who they are and what they care about. We hope to explore these strategies as a path to help people make the most out of their experiences with algorithms. If any of these extensions are interesting you, we'd love to hear from you to connect afterwards. A link to our full paper can be found at this bit.ly link below. Thank you for your time and attention.